You were a special forces king who once shuttled through a hail of bullets and lingered on the verge of death. How could you have unexpectedly plunged headlong into a primitive society that was as chaotic as the dawn of time? Let's see how you'll stir up a tempestuous storm of dominance in this desolate land during this earth-shattering time travel. Well, it's nothing important, really. This thing is called a water caltrop. It's a kind of nut that grows in the water. The shell is black or red, and inside there's white flesh that you can eat. But it's not very useful for us, you explained. To Dashu. Oh, I see. I thought the chief had specifically asked those people to find it. So the chief still wants to see that woman? Dashu said, suddenly understanding. Yes, I think I should see her. I believe I've met the woman you mentioned. When I went to the wetlands east of Babao Mountain to look for rice, I encountered a tribe that was collecting these water caltrops. I even taught them how to make rafts. It seems they've learned, but I don't know why they've come here. You briefly explained your relationship with the Ling tribe. No wonder. I was wondering how they knew how to make those things that float on the water. They look different from our wooden boats, more like flat boards. So, the chief taught them how to make them. But chief, why didn't you have our tribe make those things? I think that raft thing should be easier to build than our wooden boats, right? Dashu asked, puzzled. Heh. It's easy to make, but it can't carry much. It's fine for standing on, but it's definitely not comparable to our wooden boats for transporting things. Even for carrying people, our boats can carry more. Anyway, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go outside the city and see what their purpose is for coming here. Yes, Chief. Dashu and you started walking towards the city gate while talking. Ling Chao, who was sitting at the city gate holding a porcelain bowl and looking around, soon saw you. God, it's really you. I finally see you again. Thank you for giving us the method of making rafts. When Ling Chao saw you approaching, she quickly put the bowl aside and knelt down excitedly, giving you a grand bow. She really worshipped you as a god. You didn't expect her to react so strongly. You looked at the woman carefully for a few moments. It was indeed the woman who had pulled your small boat and prevented him from entering the swamp. Since she had good intentions, you still had a good impression of Ling Cao. So, he quickly asked the soldiers to help Ling Cao up, then stood in front of her and communicated with gestures. Did you come to find me for something? I heard you have companions. Let them come over too. I am the chief here. I won't let anyone harm you, you said, maintaining a friendly smile as much as possible. After Ling Chao understood what you meant, she looked at the soldiers around her holding various weapons, then looked at you. After thinking for a moment, she decided to call the other 4 people ashore. Although it seemed dangerous, she had confirmed that you were the divine person who taught them to make rafts, and you shouldn't kill them. Otherwise, there would be no need to go through so much trouble. So, with your permission, Ling Gao quickly went to the river and called her tribespeople ashore. The other 4 people were very happy to see that Ling Cao had really made contact with the chief of this tribe. They quickly paddled their rafts to the shore. Finally, several people worked together to drag the raft onto the shore, and then, accompanied by Ling Cao, they came to the city gate again. Chief, look at their raft. Does it look like the Zhuzi that Yufu brought back last time? I think that raft is made of Zhuzi tied together, and the weapons they are holding seem to be made of Zhuzi too, Dashu said, looking at the bamboo raft dragged ashore by the several people. The more he looked, the more familiar it seemed, so he asked you to confirm. You hadn't paid attention to the Ling tribe's rafts, and because it was a bit far from the shore, you hadn't paid much attention to it. After all, it was just a raft that you taught them to make. No matter how well they learned, how good could it be? But when Dashu mentioned the word Zhuzi, you suddenly became spirited. Bamboo raft. They found Zhuzi in the wetland. This news shocked and excited you very much. You couldn't help but be excited. This was Zhuzi, the natural all-purpose material you had been looking for. But you had never found where Zhuzi was. It turned out that the Zhuzi was in the wetland, and you didn't find it when you entered the wetland last time. But now it's good. A tribe that seems to have a good relationship with you actually has Zhuzi. Then, whether you absorb this tribe or trade with them, the Han tribe can obtain a source of zhuzi. This is definitely great news. While you were craning your neck to look towards the riverbank, the 5 members of the Ling tribe also arrived at the south gate of the city under the guidance of the soldiers. Among these 5 people, besides Ling Chao, there were 3 men and 1 woman. The woman was holding a bamboo spear with an animal bone inserted at the top, and the men were carrying bamboo bows and arrows. When you saw their attire, you immediately felt relieved. Although you didn't see the bamboo raft, the bamboo weapons they carried couldn't be fake. This was definitely zhuzi, no doubt about it. God, these are my people. Ling Chao took the lead in greeting again. The remaining 4 tribesmen were also curiously looking at you. They had never seen you before. At this time, seeing your clothes and dress, they really felt that you looked very grand, but because of your status, they didn't dare to look too much. They quickly looked at you and bowed to greet you. Well, what do you want from me? You can tell me directly, you said to them. As a result, the others also looked at Ling Chao, obviously taking Ling Chao as their leader. God, according to your revelation, we have not only learned to make rafts, but also know about that edible grass. But we don't know how to control their growth. We can only collect the seeds of those wild grasses to eat. So, I want to ask God to teach us what to do. This passage was a bit complicated, but Ling Chao gestured back and forth towards the paddy field, and you roughly understood. Teaching you is also possible, but as you can see, I am now the chief of this tribe, and I naturally have to think for the tribe. It is impossible to help you for free, so if you want to learn, you must exchange something, such as your zhuzi. At the end, you specifically pointed to the bamboo spear in the other woman's hand, telling them that you wanted this. Zhuil Ruzi? Ling Chao awkwardly learned your pronunciation. So this thing is called zhuzi. Yes, it's this thing. We need a lot. Of course, we won't take so much for nothing. We can exchange it with our things. If you agree, I will send someone to teach you how to grow rice. After saying these words, you finally nodded to Dashu. How could Dashu not understand your meaning? He immediately asked someone to bring samples of the goods that the Han tribe usually sells. Soon, under Dashu's arrangement, the daily commodities sold by the Han tribe were placed in front of the several people of the Ling tribe. Pottery, white salt, iron pots and spoons, and even some farm tools. Dashu also introduced the uses of the items to them one by one. Ling Chao and the others tasted the white salt and looked at the items, but they were not very interested in the pottery, iron pots, and spoons. Except for the white salt, which was a hard currency. They didn't need pottery. They could make bamboo tubes themselves. They also couldn't use iron pots and spoons. They could make bamboo tube rice. As for those farm tools, they didn't know how to grow rice yet, so even if they bought them back, they wouldn't know how to use them. So this item could only be purchased after the deal was reached. Finally, Ling Chao thought for a moment, looked around, and saw the group of antelopes and sheep in the distance. She suddenly proposed her idea to you. God, we only want this white salt and farm tools. We don't need those pottery and ironware, but we want this kind of thing you wear and a lot of animal skins. You were very surprised when you first heard what she wanted, but after thinking about it for a while, you understood. The Ling tribe lived in the wetland. There must be very few or no large herbivores around. Only fish and water birds were more common, so their clothing was really a big problem. They definitely needed a lot of cloth and animal skins to survive the winter. This was what they urgently lacked. Having figured this out, you suddenly realized another problem. If you exchanged so many things with the Ling tribe for just a little zhuzi, wouldn't that be too much of a loss? Tsk, are you the kind of person who is willing to suffer losses? How is that possible? No, you have to change the conditions and see what else you want. Wetland, wetland. What else is there in abundance, and what the Han tribe doesn't have yet? Suddenly you thought of a mutually beneficial deal that made you burst into laughter in your heart. Farming. Farming. What always goes with farming is animal husbandry. There is a lot of water in the wetland, and there are many water birds. The most suitable breeding project is ducks. Ducks are a good thing. Don't think about down jackets for now. You can't make down jackets without that kind of airtight down-proof fabric. Even if you manage to make them, the feathers will leak out within few days. But if you can't make down jackets, you can always use the feathers to make arrows, right? This is military supplies. In addition, there are duck eggs and duck meat. When meat cannot be guaranteed to be sufficient, eggs are also a good source of protein. It's just that the Han tribe does not have the conditions to raise ducks. To raise ducks, you must have a pond. This is the most basic condition. Without a pond, everything else is useless, but the Han tribe can't raise them, but the Ling tribe can. Their living environment is very suitable for large-scale breeding of waterfowl. At that time, they can not only eat them themselves, but also sell them to the Han tribe. The Han tribe will exchange cloth and animal skins with them. Only then will you feel that the transaction is equal. Otherwise, just exchanging for some zhuzi would be too cheap for them. Another thing to note is that ducks are relatively easy to raise. First of all, there are a lot of water plants, fish and shrimp in the wetland. Even without feed, ducks can grow well just relying on these natural water resources. Another important thing is that ducks are suitable for group breeding and are not prone to disease. This is the most important thing in breeding. Although the Han tribe also has chickens raised in groups, the scale is not large. The total number has always been kept within 5,000, and it is still in a semi-free-range mode. In fact, such group breeding is not suitable. Except for the easy collection of chicken manure, there are really no other benefits. Chickens are the most susceptible to disease, especially when the breeding density is very high. Like the modern high-density chicken farms where chickens are kept in cages and not allowed to come out, they are vaccinated once a week. Even so, there are still occasional outbreaks of bird flu. Therefore, you have always strictly required the hygiene of the chicken farm, and it has always been in a semi-free-range mode, just in case the chickens get sick. Moreover, before the breakthrough of artificial incubation technology, the disadvantages of group chicken raising outweigh the advantages. So, you originally planned to privatize the black-bone chickens this time and distribute them to each household to raise them separately. In this way, the people can also eat the eggs themselves without waiting for the tribe to distribute them collectively, which will be much more convenient and can also reduce the incidence of diseases. On the other hand, ducks will not have this problem, especially if there is a pond with flowing water. The ducks will be very healthy. Even if they are raised in large groups, there may not be any problems. It is very suitable for promotion in the Ling tribe. Having figured this out, you said to Ling Cao, "You can have the cloth and animal skins, but it's not easy for us to make these cloths. If it's just for exchanging zhuzi, it's too much of a loss. So we don't want that much zhuzi. We want your own processed bamboo products. Exchange finished products for them. What do you think?" "Bamboo products? What are bamboo products?" Ling Cao asked, puzzled. "Things made of zhuzi, such as mats, bamboo hats, bamboo baskets, pen holders, steamers, etc. Use these things to exchange for our cloth and animal skins." You said a lot of nouns that they didn't understand. Let alone them, even Dashu didn't understand some of them. "What is that? We don't know how to—" "Oh, you don't have to worry about this. I will have someone teach you how to make them. But your raft may not be saved. You don't have to worry about this either. I will arrange for someone to send you back." You explained to them. The several people were still half understanding, but it didn't matter. You immediately let them know what despair was. Under your order, a group of soldiers carried back the bamboo raft they were riding on, and then dismantled the bamboo raft in front of them, turning it into individual pieces of zhuzi. Then you arranged for some artisans from the Han tribe to teach them how to make various bamboo products in the city. The 5 members of the Ling tribe were kept as guests. For several days, they dismantled the bamboo raft and split it into bamboo strips, and then learned the techniques of making various things from the artisans of the Han tribe. During this period, you also had the wood processing plant in the new city make a new wooden boat, the same small boat as before, so that they could be sent back. In addition to the craft teaching these days, you also ask the former Che tribe elder to teach them farming, that is, to first explain the growth process of rice. The specific planting method will depend on the local environment. In addition, you also specifically talk to Ling about the various benefits of breeding and how to raise ducks on a large scale in their area, which immediately brightened Ling Chao's eyes and increased her interest. Actually, raising ducks is quite simple. First of all, they have land to settle on, and large areas of shallow lakes, also known as wetlands. Although there are no natural ponds, it's not difficult to enclose an area near the shore. They have plenty of zuzi, right? They can directly use zuzi to make a fence and enclose an area on the shore. Then comes the task of catching wild ducks. Adult wild ducks are good at flying and are definitely difficult to catch, but it's easy to catch those ducklings that have just hatched and haven't learned to fly yet. Shoot the big ones with bows and arrows, and catch the small ones alive with nets. After that, it's just a matter of bringing them back and feeding them. It's also easy to prevent these ducklings from running away. A more troublesome method is to use zuzi to make a large cage, or use bamboo poles to set up a frame, and then pull a large net over it to prevent them from flying out. A simpler method is to directly cut off their flight feathers, making them unable to fly. But you don't support this method. After all, the feathers that a duck can use to make arrows are those few flight feathers. It would be a waste to cut them off. In addition, if the Ling tribe is able to feed them with feed, that would be even better. I believe many people have heard the term force feeding, such as force feeding education, which means forcibly instilling a large amount of knowledge. And this is actually just its derived meaning. Its original meaning is actually the literal meaning. There is a method of force-feeding ducks. Put a funnel in the duck's mouth and directly pour the feed into it. After fattening the duck in this way, its own weight can also limit its flight. Although this is very inhumane, ducks are not human after all. What's the point of talking about humanity with them? Isn't this kind of thing raised for food? By the way, this feeding method is also suitable for raising snakes. After this whole process, it seems that the Han tribe is at a disadvantage. But this is not the case. You are only providing the plan for raising ducks, at most sending a few people to explain it. The zuzi is not yours, and the ducks are not yours. What can you lose? On the contrary, once the Ling tribe has output, the Han tribe has a monopoly on white salt, cloth, and animal skins. If the Ling tribe wants these things, they can only exchange them with their ducks, and the Han tribe does not have the conditions to raise ducks. It is fair to exchange resources with them for meat and eggs. In other words, even if the Ling tribe joins the Han tribe, you will still let them stay in the wetland bamboo forest. After all, the zuzi there cannot be abandoned. You always need a small village to stay there permanently, and the Han tribe still has to provide them with white salt, cloth, and other things, but the name is changed to their own people. So, what does it matter if they join the Han tribe or not? Anyway, they are all working for you and contributing to the Han tribe. Besides, teaching them to grow rice. Haven't you done this before? Previously, you vigorously promoted rice cultivation in the Hanyang city market, and even taught planting techniques for free and provided grain seeds for free. Now it's just a different tribe, and teaching them to weave various bamboo products. Is the Han tribe at a disadvantage? It seems to be a disadvantage. This is a technology leak. But what kind of technology is weaving bamboo? Take basket weaving as an example. You can basically learn it by just looking at it. Do you still need to hide the technology? It's better to teach it generously. If you don't do this in the foreseeable future, the Han tribe will directly purchase raw maozhu from the Ling tribe and then bring it back to process it into the things they need. But doesn't it take manpower to process it yourself? The Han tribe has a lot of work to do just for infrastructure construction. Do you still have time to do this? Now that the Ling tribe is willing to do it for you, Just treat it as paying them to do it. Anyway, you have already hired so many laborers. It doesn't matter who you hire, they are all the same. As a person who wants to be an emperor, you must naturally be more broad-minded and have a longer-term vision. You can't be too concerned about such gains and losses. This is not how to be an emperor. A true emperor must have the world in his heart and look at long-term goals and strategic goals. If you can really get duck farming going, drive the national economy, and improve the national living standards, this is what an emperor should do. A week later, Ling and the others also learned the bamboo weaving techniques taught by the Han tribe. Although the Han tribe had not woven juzi before, they had woven a lot of rattan products. Compared with weaving juzi, there was not much difference between the two. It's just a matter of analogy. During these 7 days, Ling and others also learned more about the Han tribe. What goods the Han tribe usually sells, the living habits of the Han tribe people, how to cook rice, or add some other things to cook porridge. Ling learned all of these, and they also had a better understanding of how to eat rice. This morning, taking advantage of the cool morning weather, you came to the river to see Ling and the others off, because the bamboo raft they came on had been destroyed. The Han tribe would send the newly built small boat to take them back, and with them was a delegation of 15 envoys sent by you. The delegation was led by the former Cha tribe leader, who is now the clan leader of the Chai clan, plus a tribesman who was good at cultivating rice, and a tribesman who was good at weaving, rattan baskets, and a giant eagle used for communication. The remaining 12 people were just a squad of soldiers, many of whom had participated in the previous task of transporting ore by boat. They were very familiar with driving boats, and their main task this time was to protect the safety of the delegation. You also considered this when selecting people. The Cha tribe used to be a tribe near the riverbank, living by fishing. After you promoted rice cultivation, the Cha tribe was also the first tribe to reclaim paddy fields by relying on its own advantageous terrain. And before joining the Han tribe, it was also the tribe with the largest planting area among those tribes that learned to grow rice. It can be said that the Ling tribe is very similar to the former Cha tribe in terms of living environment and lifestyle. Therefore, there is no one more suitable than clan leader Chai to help them find a suitable location for farmland reclamation and teach them how to grow rice. After all, he has done this before. After they go there this time, they will stay for more than a month. Now it is June, and it takes 3.5 months for rice to mature. They can still plant at least one season before late autumn. During this period, clan leader Chai will help them choose the land, and then guide them in farming, until they return after completing the transplanting a month later. Moreover, during the 20+ days when the seedlings are growing, they can also plan a duck farm and complete the preliminary enclosure activities. And the Ling tribe's own people, in addition to fishing, can also catch some ducks back by the way with nets. After that, it is up to them to slowly improve and accumulate. But with the current environment, I believe this accumulation will be very fast. Ling and the others left with the Han tribe's delegation in a small wooden boat. When they return, the delegation will row the boat back, and the Ling tribe will continue to use their bamboo rafts as a means of transportation. Anyway, they have plenty of juzi and don't lack that one raft. You have been here in the new city for half a month. During this half month, you have communicated with Hanyang City once, and Hanyang City has already been on the right track, and everything is proceeding in an orderly manner. And according to the reports of Shuwu and the elders, another school building has been built. Half of the 4 school buildings you planned have now been completed, and I believe it will not be long before they are completed. The construction speed of Hanyang City is very fast, and the new city is naturally not slow. The planning of the new city is different from that of Hanyang City. Hanyang City is a square city. The Jing shape formed by 4 main streets divides the entire city into 9 square urban areas. The new city is a fangxi, and it is a rectangular city, which is naturally different from Hanyang City. The area of the new city Fangxi is larger than that of Hanyang City. Two main streets cross vertically and horizontally to form a shu shape, dividing the entire Fangxi into four large rectangular urban areas. These four large areas are further divided into four small areas by two cross-shaped secondary roads. That is to say, there are 16 small urban areas in one Fangxi, and each of these small urban areas is slightly larger than the urban areas of the Han tribe. In comparison, one Fangxi of the new city is 7 areas larger than Hanyang City, and this is obviously still not enough. The population of the new city is constantly increasing. In addition to the population of the Han tribe itself, there are also a large number of laborers, whose number is approaching 5 figures. In addition, the city cannot only be used to build houses, corresponding factories and warehouses are also necessary. For example, the completed windmill wood processing plant and blacksmith workshop, and a special area for raising cattle, horses, and sheep, as well as warehouses for storing grain and feed. These have already occupied 3 areas. In addition, the residential area of the new city is also much larger than that of Hanyang City. Even if the remaining 13 areas are all built into residences, the city cannot accommodate nearly 10,000 people at the same time. So, the city must be divided again. Where to divide the new city? This is a question. You originally planned to build a post-station village between the new city and Hanyang City, that is, a village with a population of about 1 or 2,000. But now is obviously not the time. The target area does not have a large amount of water. There are a few mountain springs and streams, but they are completely insufficient to support the growth of rice. Without food, what can you live on? Do you still want the 2 cities to send supplies to the middle? This is simply impossible. According to your vision, this village must meet its own food supply, and planting rice there is unrealistic. So, you plan to build this post-station village after the successful breeding of corn and soybeans. At that time, corn and soybeans, which do not require much water, will be promoted locally as the main food of the village. But the time for breeding is still early. Without 1 or 2 years, relying on those few seeds, large-scale planting cannot be formed. Now there is wheat that is suitable for planting there, but wheat has a long growth cycle and low yield. With corn already available, it cannot be the first choice. Since the village cannot be built, the population of the new city must be divided out. Then, according to the original plan, build another Fangxi next to the existing Fangxi. The Du urban area is close to the big river and has abundant water sources. It is surrounded by a large plain with lush shrubs and grasslands and sparse trees. It is a very suitable place for direct grazing or reclaiming wasteland for farming. Besides, the new city was originally intended to be built into a big city, and it was also planned to build several more Fangxi. The rammed earth walls of the new Fangxi can be built first. The thing is easy to build and fast. With sufficient manpower, a rammed earth wall can be built in almost 10 days. But the time for digging soil will be calculated separately. Up to now, the wall soil, bricks, and other building materials used in the construction of the new urban area have all come from the excavation of the river channel. After all, even if you want to farm, you must first divert the water. The purpose of doing this is to develop more arable land while building the city. The plan was quickly finalized. Just a few dozen meters north of the existing Fangxi, another Fangxi will be built, with the same specifications as the one currently under construction, also divided into 16 urban areas. In this way, the pressure of insufficient housing can be reduced. After explaining the construction task of the second Fangxi to Dashu, you continued to study papermaking, imagining whether there was any mechanized method to replace the current pure manual processing. The current papermaking progress is too slow. To meet your requirements for universal education, this output is simply unrealistic. So you must find new methods and use mechanized production methods to replace pure manual labor. Even if only one link is mechanized, it is good. A little faster is a little faster. However, This kind of invention and creation cannot be thought of in a day or two. After all, it is a production line of equipment, which is different from a single tool. It is not a level of difficulty at all, but you are not without clues. You have already thought of improvement ideas for some of the links. For example, a conveyor belt. With Juzi, you can completely weave a super long bamboo curtain to convey the copied pulp. Then build a long huokang under this conveyor belt. When the fire is lit below, the wet pulp is input from one end and output from the other end. During the process, it is directly steamed dry by the heating of the huokang. This can greatly save the time and manpower of removing and drying the paper. However, there is still a technical problem that has not been solved in this idea. That is, how to evenly spread the pulp on this bamboo curtain conveyor belt, and it cannot be broken. The middle and the speed must be fast enough. If this cannot be done, then the front conveyor belt is useless. The inspection group from the two northern tribal alliances arrived at Hanyang City around noon. The two members of the surveying team, who served as guides, had sent a message via Flying Eagle as soon as they entered the valley north of Hanyang City, notifying the city's inhabitants of their return. The elder and the rat shaman, who were left in charge of the city, immediately prepared a reception and, incidentally, sent this message to you at the new city. The inspection group consisted of 37 people. Each of the two alliances had sent more than a dozen high-level members, all of whom were leaders of smaller tribes that made up the alliances. Compared to the number of people, they brought significantly more livestock, all of which were blue-gray furred donkeys. These were domesticated plateau wild donkeys, used not only for riding, but also for carrying goods. For example, this time, the donkeys carried many stone slabs depicting mythological stories. These stone slabs were not very large, each about the size of a large wok, with a diameter of about 40 centimeters. The stone looked like naturally formed crystalline flakes, each about 2 fingers thick, not artificially polished. The surface showed a texture of yellow and orange-red, with patterns painted with unknown pigments, which had turned dark brown. Due to their age, each slab weighed about 50 jin. A single donkey carried 2 slabs, so there were more than a dozen donkeys just for transporting these slabs, and some for riding or carrying food. When they approached Hanyang City from afar, the scene before them immediately stunned them. The city, built of cyan bricks, was actually less than 8 meters high, but it appeared incomparably majestic to them, giving them an immense sense of awe. The neatly arranged bricks, like scales, stacked layer upon layer, seemed like something only gods could create. That's what they thought. How could mere mortals possess such ability? The moment they saw this cyan brick city, they had largely believed what Yuye had told them. As they got closer, on the pasture outside the west gate, a group of teenagers were herding sheep with white wool. More children were playing in a rectangular area enclosed by a fence. They were divided into several teams, chasing several leather balls. Many other children who did not have the opportunity to play gathered outside to watch, occasionally shouting loudly at those on the field, but all were engrossed and none showed any impatience. Bypassing the soccer field where the children gathered, the moat came into view. The shimmering water looked very clear, allowing them to see the bottom at a glance. The depth of the water, combined with the height of the city wall, would make it impossible for even those giant man-eating apes to do anything, they thought. Welcome to Hanyang City, friends from afar. On the drawbridge, 2 old men wearing white robes and holding wooden staffs greeted them. These are our tribe's elder and shaman. They are welcoming you. The 2 members of the surveying team who had led the way acted as temporary interpreters. The crowd heard that they were the Han tribe's shaman and elder. Although they didn't understand why the Han tribe had both positions simultaneously, either one was worthy of respect. They were the wise men of a tribe, dedicated to accumulating and disseminating knowledge for future generations. Using such people to welcome them showed the importance the Han tribe placed on them. After exchanging greetings, they soon entered the inner city. Compared to the tall city walls outside, the scene inside the city was even more astonishing. Vehicles of all sizes, carrying bricks, thick wooden planks, and some white soil they didn't recognize, were all heading from outside towards the center of the city. The wide street was very smooth, paved with large cyan bricks of the same material as the city walls. Every few bricks there was a cyan brick with a hole, and water could be faintly seen flowing underneath. It was actually hollow. The neat houses on both sides of the street were also very attractive. People occasionally walked in and out of the courtyards. Wisps of blue smoke rose slowly from the chimneys on the roofs, and the distinctive smell of burning wood was mixed with a fragrance they couldn't name. Although they had never seen it before, they knew it must be a very delicious food. The group was led through the outer city area to the streets of the central city area. Those vehicles of various sizes were gathering here. 2 3-story buildings with large windows immediately came into view. They could clearly see people decorating the interior of the buildings from the street. Just opposite these 2 buildings, identical structures were under construction. Countless figures were busy on the scaffolding, some carrying bricks, some delivering mud. This scene immediately shocked the observation group. These buildings were actually built by human hands. Then the city walls outside and these houses, they suddenly felt a bit overwhelmed. Could the leader of the Han tribe really be the legendary god? He taught his people how to resist the giant apes? Then what were these buildings, taller than the city walls, used for? They pondered this. Everyone, it's time for lunch. The Han tribe has prepared temporary accommodations and plenty of food for you. The leader has gone to the new city and won't be back until tomorrow. You can visit various places in the Han tribe during this time, the elders said, leading them to the doorsteps of several prearranged residences. When the group returned to the courtyard, 2 long, solid wood tables had already been placed together, temporarily forming a large square table. Wooden barrels on the table contained fragrant rice, and several large pottery basins contained stewed meat, stir-fried vegetables, and a tomato and egg soup. This was already top-tier cuisine in Hanyang City. Ordinary tribespeople couldn't usually enjoy such a rich meal. Using it to entertain these outsiders was simply to allow them to fully understand the life of the Han tribe. Several long benches surrounded the wooden table. The 2 guides demonstrated how to sit and eat at the table, and then personally served them rice, ladled out egg soup, and placed the vegetable basins in the middle of the table, because they were worried that these people might not know how to use chopsticks. The elder and the others had thoughtfully prepared ceramic spoons. This meal was quite a shock to the inspection team. First of all, sitting on stools and eating at a table compared to sitting on the ground and eating with their hands felt incredibly superior. Then there were the white porcelain-patterned tableware. How exquisite, how luxurious. Especially the bowls. These were containers. Not to mention such exquisite porcelain, they even lacked stone basins, and it was so difficult to hold water at ordinary times. How are these stone basins made? They look so beautiful. Your tribe probably doesn't have many, right? Are these only for the leader? An old man in the inspection group asked tentatively. No, this is not a stone basin. This is called ceramics. Of course, it can also be called pottery or porcelain. Either is fine. This was created by our leader. The method of making it is not difficult. We can make as many as we want. Now, not only can everyone in the Han tribe use porcelain bowls, but we also make many to sell to other tribes. Well, sell means exchange. 1 of the team members recalled the foot-powered pottery wheel you invented. The pottery industry of the Han tribe had now reached countless new heights. Not only had production increased, but the quality had also improved to a great extent. Now it could indeed be said that making them was very easy. After hearing the explanation, the group of inspection team members was, unsurprisingly, amazed again. With such black technology placed before them, if you were to say you were a god, it would indeed be irrefutable proof. The group expressed their hope to meet you, the miraculous leader, as soon as possible, and then, under the guidance of the 2 team members, began to taste the food on the table. The rice was very fragrant and sweet, and it also easily created a feeling of fullness. The egg soup was also delicious, and more importantly, it was salty. Coupled with the vegetable oil added when stir-frying the tomatoes, it tasted even more delicious than the roasted meat they usually ate. The stir-fried loofah with green peppers, even without other seasonings, just salt and vegetable oil, without the need for meat, could fully release the flavor of this vegetarian dish. At first, they were somewhat unable to handle the stimulating spiciness, but after eating it, they couldn't control their hands and reached for this dish again. It seemed to be very popular with them, but this was understandable. After all, their usual food was bland or even had a bloody smell. They rarely ate food with such a special taste. This is also one of the reasons why ancient people were always so fond of spices. Of course, they naturally wouldn't miss the most important meat dish. This time it was mutton, but the cooking method was based on pork. In order to make full use of vegetables, it was made a bit like a northeastern stew. The mutton was diced and blanched to remove the blood, drained and set aside. Oil was heated in a pan, and then the semi-solid sugar paste formed after drying the man-eating tree syrup was added. It was heated until it smoked and turned black. At this time, the mutton was added to caramelize. After stirring with a spoon, the mutton, which had been boiled until white, turned caramel-colored. This was also the only way to color food in the absence of soy sauce. Then cabbage, beans, dried chilies, star anise, and salt were added, and water was added until the mutton was stewed until it was easily pierced with chopsticks. This uniquely flavored meat dish was eaten with great joy by everyone. They had never eaten meat other than roasted meat before, so meat could be eaten this way. This was the first reaction of everyone after eating. The peculiar way of eating and the peculiar food quickly left an indelible impression on them. But they still didn't understand what the staple food of the Han tribe was. It couldn't be that they ate this every meal, right? So someone soon raised this question. Something that can be eaten every day? That must be rice. Ah, that's it. The white stuff in your bowls. This stuff is made from rice. Rice is also a good thing that our leader brought. The team member briefly answered, but he kept mentioning the leader's name, as if none of this would have appeared without you. Is there a lot of this rice? It looks a bit like fruit. Does it need to be collected by people every day? Another person asked again. This is just the seed of a grass called rice, the team member said in a way they could easily understand. As long as this grass seed is buried in the soil, it will grow a new rice plant. Our leader calls this planting. We rely on planting this rice to obtain rice. Just burying it in the soil will grow new ones? Doesn't that mean that as much as you bury, as much will grow? Doesn't that mean you can get as much as you want to eat? The old man who first asked the question stood up in surprise, his eyes fixed on the speaking team member, hoping to get his confirmation. After all, this was a problem that had always troubled their unity. Without enough food, a large population could not gather together. The team member was a little unnerved by the old man's gaze, but finally said, that's about it. But growing rice is not a simple matter, and this grass can only grow in mud submerged in water. So it is difficult to create enough suitable land. But our leader also has a way to transform paddy fields. You can go and see the paddy fields later. You will understand after you see them. The old man was also very happy to hear his words. He had confirmed this method of obtaining food. As for the difficulty of planting, he thought it was normal. Food could not fall from the sky. Whether it was hunting or gathering, it required one's own efforts. The key point is that hunting and gathering are purely luck-based methods of obtaining food. Sometimes, even if you put in the effort, you may not get any results. And that planting, it sounds like as long as you are willing to work hard, you will have a stable harvest. This is the key point. Safety and stability are more important than anything else. After clearing the delicacies on the table, the group couldn't wait to rest and immediately asked the two team members to take them to see the rice. After all, this was the most important part of this inspection. The two guides led the inspection team on a tour of the Han tribe. The elder and the rat shaman did not accompany them. They were quite old and rarely moved around. usually just strolling within the city walls and seldom venturing outside. The group first went to the rice paddies outside the east gate, observing the rice stalks growing in the water and the two artificial canals in the middle of the paddies. Upon learning that these were dug by hand, the members of the inspection team expressed astonishment. However, looking back at the city wall behind them, digging artificial canals seemed to become a matter of course, making them sigh inwardly. The old man who had asked questions during the meal also fell into contemplation after seeing the rice paddies, seemingly studying the possibility of planting rice in their own area. Next, they visited the peanut and vegetable fields, as well as the wheat fields, which had expanded to dozens of mu. These crops, which didn't need to be planted in water, piqued their interest. However, they were told that these were new varieties, newly developed by the leader, and that stable seeds were not yet available, causing the group to feel a sense of regret. Finally, after touring the fields outside the city, they returned to the city. This time, they visited the industry of the Han tribe, the oil pressing workshop, the weaving workshop, and the wood processing plant. When they saw the huge windmill, driving countless connecting rods and gears, ultimately driving a row of iron saw blades to move up and down to process wooden boards, they almost popped their eyes out. If the previous activities could be considered labor-intensive, then the windmill sawmill was definitely a heaven-defying black technology. This ability to control the power of nature could only be mastered by gods. After touring all of this, they had a better understanding of the Han tribe and developed an admiration for you. Although they hadn't met you in person yet, they already believed in their hearts that the leader of the Han tribe was the divine figure depicted on the stone slabs, being able to devise a way to obtain stable food, and this food tasted delicious. Having godlike technology, capable of doing things that humans could not, weaving cloth from wool and grass to replace animal skins. Without any one of these, it would be impossible to achieve a large population gathering. It seemed that the prophecy was not wrong. This was indeed not something an ordinary person could achieve. Having obtained the answers they sought, they now looked forward to meeting the true God. They hoped to meet you for a final confirmation, though this was not important, as they had already seen people in Hanyang City dressed in the attire depicted on the stone slabs, and as the leader of the Han tribe, you would naturally be the same. They primarily wanted to see your decision, whether you were willing to unite them, lead them to join forces against the oppression of the man-eating tribe, and also allow them to live a life of plenty. Another point was, if you agreed, how would you arrange them? The environment of Hanyang City was indeed excellent, surpassing anything they could have dreamed of in any aspect. But this relatively small city was already full. This situation was rather awkward. After touring Hanyang City, it was impossible to say that they didn't feel any envy. Who wouldn't want their own people to live a better life? Fortunately, this question didn't bother them for long, because they met you the next day. Two groups of people returned to Hanyang City the next day. One was the mineral exploration team that you had sent out half a month earlier, the team specifically searching for graphite and borax. However, because they were led by members of the Shui clan, they easily found the locations of these two minerals. The subsequent mining was even easier. Equipped with iron tools and used to mine soft graphite, apart from transportation, it was almost as fast as digging soil. They easily filled a cart. The borax was also not very hard. With iron hammers and pickaxes, they filled another cart in 3 days. The 3 double ox-drawn, 4-wheeled carts had a very large carrying capacity. Fortunately, there hadn't been any heavy rain during this period, and the road surface the carts traveled on was very hard, which avoided the difficulty of the ore carts sinking into muddy roads. Of course, the results were also very gratifying. Putting aside the uses of borax for now, the 2 carts of graphite alone were enough for you to use for a long time. After all, clay had to be added to make pencil leads. With the 2 mixed together, it was equivalent to having 4 carts of pencils. Pencils. 4 cartloads of pencils. If this were given to one person to use, they probably wouldn't be able to use it all up in their lifetime. After the mining team returned in the afternoon, the elder and the rat shaman brought the inspection team to the east gate of Hanyang City early to wait for your return. The group was not disappointed. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they saw a man wearing a golden crown and hairpin, riding a single-tusked elephant, approaching Hanyang City from afar. This time your return seemed a bit solitary, with only yourself, Ruru, and Huishan. The team that had gone with you had been left at the new city to continue making paper. Before the new industrialized assembly line equipment was successfully developed, this small papermaking workshop had to operate continuously to have any chance of accumulating enough white paper to cover the windows before winter arrived. Uiku didn't pay attention to these matters anymore, because you had more important things to do, which was to win over the tribal alliances that circulated the prophecies of the stone slabs and have them join the Han tribe, thereby expanding the strength of the Han tribe. Another point was to use the ancient prophecies on the stone slabs as a guise and actively create public opinion within the Han tribe, promoting the legend of you being the chosen one, and then take advantage of the situation to achieve the goal of ascending to the throne. Well, although you were already a leader, that wasn't enough. For the Han tribe, whose population was about to exceed 20,000, it was time to establish a nation. This would also allow for the earlier completion of the management system planning. Everyone, please rise. Let's go into the city and talk. You jumped down from Huishan's back in a single motion and walked up to the crowd. The members of the inspection team, upon seeing you in person, completely dispelled the last trace of doubt in their hearts. Seeing you so amiable at this moment also made them relax considerably, but the proper admiration and respect were not lacking in the slightest. The group respectfully followed you into the city, and after agreeing to talk during dinner together, they separated. You first ordered someone to carry the white paper brought back by Ruru to your home, then let Ruru and Huishan go play on their own. Then you returned home alone, checked the growth of the corn and soybeans. Before long, 2 old men in long robes entered the courtyard. Leader, the rat shaman and the elder said in unison. Yes, what happened while I was away? How did you entertain the inspection team these past 2 days? Did you discover anything special? Or rather, have they made any decisions? You asked the 2 old men. Leader, the construction progress of the school buildings is very fast. 2 buildings have been completed, and they are being, decoration, yes. The 3rd building has already had 2 floors completed, and the walls of the 3rd floor are currently being built. It is estimated that it will be completed soon. The foundation of the 4th building is also under construction. But leader, will the land in the middle of the school, towards the north, also be used to build a building? Since it is where the leader will live, how big should it be? If it is planned in advance, construction can start sooner. The elder reported to you. First, yes, the school buildings are well built, but you must ensure the quality to avoid accidents in the future. If you have time, go and check more often. As for the issue of my house, let's talk about it later. I might change the original plan. I'll tell you when I've made up my mind, you responded. Yes, leader. Yes, anything else? You continued to ask. Leader, the Shu clan members you sent out to mine graphite have returned just this morning, with a total of 2 large carts of graphite and 1 cart of borax. All team members have returned, and there were no casualties. The rat shaman also immediately reported. What? They returned this morning? That's really fast. Well, it's good that no one was hurt. They probably haven't left yet, right? Call them to dinner together tonight. I want to reward them, you said in surprise. You had just learned that? The mining team had returned half a day earlier. Yes, leader. Yes, tell me about the inspection team, you reminded them. Leader, they arrived yesterday morning, 37 people, and they brought many long-eared ponies. Their calls are loud and unpleasant. I heard that they captured and raised them themselves. This time they not only used them for riding, but also brought back those stone slabs. I have already seen the stone slabs. The drawings on them are indeed of the leader, and Huishan as well. This is truly incredible. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I absolutely wouldn't have believed it, the rat shaman said in amazement. You were puzzled. How did they figure out that the drawings were of you? Although you hadn't seen the original stone slabs, you had seen the pictures that Yuye had copied onto animal skins. They were clearly simple line drawings, at most showing a man riding an elephant, but they insisted that it was you. However, well, this was exactly what you hoped for. If everyone could think this way, then absorbing the population would be much easier. Yes, let's not talk about the stone slabs for now. Tell me about their reactions after they arrived. Did they say what they were planning to do? You continued to ask. Well, nothing much, really. They were the same as those who came to Hanyang City for the first time, just amazed by everything. But yesterday afternoon they went to see the rice paddies and were very interested in our planting. They probably hope we can teach them how to farm. But I think this is a very good idea. They have domesticated those ponies themselves, so using them to cultivate the land should be no problem. Except they don't have metal farm tools, the elder added. Hey, farming is not that simple. They have to join our tribe first. The rat shaman also showed a you-know-what-I-mean smile at this time, and you and the elder also smiled. Obviously, the three of them had the same ideas regarding the expansion and development of the tribe. Soon it was time for dinner. The dinner was arranged on the city wall. In the summer evening, sitting on the high city wall to eat had a special flavor, and it also helped you to show some things, just like last time when you persuaded those tribes to join the Han tribe. The 2.5-meter wide top of the city wall was very spacious, easily allowing 4 people to walk side by side. Now, placing a row of long tables along the city wall was more than enough. This was the first time the inspection team had ascended the city wall. Standing on top of the city wall, with the afterglow of the setting sun, the vast farmland and shimmering river under the city wall were all in full view. Looking closer, the height difference of the city wall also made them a little dizzy, but some people were also thinking, what should be the use of such a high wall? Everyone, welcome to the Han tribe, and thank you for your help to my subordinates, assisting them in exploring the lair of the man-eating tribe, and paving the way for our future counterattack against the enemy. You sat in the main seat, and the first sentence brought the topic to the man-eating tribe. The surveying team member standing behind you also helped you translate simultaneously. The members of the inspection team, who were immersed in this vast, panoramic view, heard your speech and also withdrew their gazes. After they finished listening to the translation, their expressions immediately became serious. This was exactly the content of the stone slab prophecy, and the person in front of them was the leader who could lead the human race to defeat the giant apes in the prophecy. Now the leader personally expressed his attitude to counterattack the enemy. How could they not take it seriously? Han leader, do you really intend to counterattack the man-eating tribe and completely eliminate them? I have a question. Has the Han tribe seen those monsters? They are really powerful. 10 of our warriors may not be able to defeat one of them. An elderly man questioned your statement. Of course, we have already encountered 3 attacks, and all 3 times we were victorious. Although they are very powerful, they are not without weaknesses. You have been here for 2 days, and you should have seen those slaves working in the city. Those people are the man-eating tribes we captured, you said with certainty and confidence. After listening to the translation, the group was shocked. Is this true? The Han tribe defeated those monsters and 3 times? Of course, as I said, although those monsters are powerful, they still have weaknesses and are not invincible. But unity is also very important. If we have too few people, we still have no way. It's no problem to protect ourselves, but it's more difficult to completely solve them, you explained. Han leader, do those monsters really have weaknesses? Can you tell us? A young man who looked physically strong asked. No problem. First of all, you need to know the advantages of those monsters. They are very strong and their movement speed is also very fast, especially in the woods. Since you know this, then don't choose to fight them in the woods. This way, they lose the things they can climb, and it can also reduce their advantage. You shared your insights with them, and it felt like they were interviewing you, asking if you, as the leader, had the strength to defeat the enemy. But those monsters are still very fast when running on flat ground. Sometimes they can even catch up with the beasts we domesticate. They sometimes also catch our people on flat ground. Just not being in the woods is useless, right? The man continued. You're right. That's why we built this circle of city walls. It can block any enemy that wants to attack us and protect the people living in the city from being killed by the enemy. When an enemy attacks, we will close the city gates and send warriors to fight on the wall. The last time was also like this. The man-eating tribe army surrounded Hanyang city. At that time, dozens of giant apes tried to attack the city, but although they were very powerful, they didn't even touch the edge of the wall before they were killed by my warriors. You explained. To them, the use and effect of the city wall, which, as expected, surprised them greatly. But Han leader, such a high wall is not easy to build, right? Only a large tribe like the Han tribe can build such a tall thing. If we were to do it, it would be impossible. So, we still can't avoid being hunted by the enemy. A person from the hunting alliance in the inspection team complained. No, you can. As long as you choose to join the Han tribe, our leader will definitely lead everyone to a better life. At that time, not only will there be a strong city wall as a fortress, but you will also be given powerful weapons, so that you can really rely on your own efforts to resist the enemy's attack. The rat shaman sat below, and hearing someone say this, quickly brought the topic back on track, which was also their ultimate goal. To persuade them to bring their people to join the Han tribe. Can the Han tribe really accept us? Where will we live after we come? Or do we not need to come over? If we need to come over, what about our food? Rely on that farming? A young man who looked relatively young asked. Hearing your question, the people of the inspection team began to report the population and property of their respective tribes. They were still counting in units of each small tribe, and it seemed that the alliance had never been unified. Now, when they reported, it seemed very messy, making you have a headache. Finally, you had to let them speak one by one, and then you would help them summarize. After a simple summary, you quickly understood their current situation. First of all, these two tribal alliances did not have their own names. They were just different tribes living together. However, they did not know anything about alliance leaders or names. They didn't even know what an alliance was. This term was proposed by you, but for the convenience of future planning, you still gave them temporary names. One of the two alliances lived at the junction of the plateau forest and grassland. Simply put, the plateau forest line. This alliance had the largest population, with a total population of about 2,400 people, consisting of 16 small tribes. On average, each tribe had only 150 people, which was not large but not small either. They mainly made a living by raising livestock. The livestock they raised included blue-gray furred plateau wild donkeys, totaling about 600. This was probably accumulated over many years. In addition to wild donkeys, there were also alpacas, a plateau creature with mixed fur colors, black, white, coffee, dark brown, and even gray. Their number was also very large, about 1/800, and they were their main source of animal skins, meat, and dairy products. In addition, there were relatively tall argali, but the number was very small, less than 200. In summary, this tribe, which was good at raising livestock, was very developed. They were good at domesticating animals, so their hunting skills gradually faded, resulting in their weak martial power. However, they had a large number of livestock and were good at horsemanship. Based on the principle of running away if they couldn't win, they were not wiped out by the man-eating tribe. You also gave them a temporary name, the Three Livestock Alliance. It was vulgar, but very appropriate. The other alliance had a slightly smaller population, totaling about 1,600 people consisting of 11 small tribes. The average population was similar to that of the Three Livestock Alliance, but they were not good at raising livestock. The main activity area of this alliance was the junction of the plateau grassland and the southern mountains. They lived by hunting, raising only a small amount of livestock. Their prey included saiga antelopes on the grassland and argali that liked to jump around on cliffs and mountain walls. This was a very large wild sheep, about the size of a donkey. In addition to these, alpacas, wild donkeys, and argali were also on their menu, but in smaller numbers, especially argali, which liked to hang around the edge of the forest. You named this tribal alliance, which mainly hunted argali, the Argali Alliance. Of course, they also had a small number of livestock, mainly wild donkeys, numbering more than 200, all obtained through intermarriage and trade with the three livestock alliance. Listing these important data, you quickly summarize them. The two alliances had a total of 37 tribes, which was the same as the number of people in the inspection team. It should be that one high-level member was sent from each tribe. The total assets of the two alliances were as follows: a total population of about 4,000 people, about 900 domesticated wild donkeys, less than 200 argali, and about 2,800 alpacas of various colors. Other animal skins and meat were not included in the assets. In general, the strength of these two alliances was still very strong, and together they could match a Hanyang city. If they could join the Han tribe, you were expected to increase the total population of the Han tribe to 20,000 this year. The total population of Hanyang city was not accurately counted, but it was close to 5,000 people. When the new city was first built, there were more than 7,000 people. In addition, the surrounding labor tribes have been absorbed one after another in the past few months, and the population has already exceeded 10,000. It is estimated that there may be 11,500 people. Of course, this does not include the number of slaves. The number of these people alone had already reached 16,000. If the Argali Alliance and the Three Livestock Alliance could really be absorbed, exceeding 20,000 would be a certainty. And this was not counting the Ling tribe and the number of labor tribes in the south of the new city. After all, these people in your eyes were also expected to join the Han tribe's population this year. Leader, when can we move over? Someone from the inspection team asked you. Well, don't be in a hurry, let me think. You should not be able to move this year. Not to mention other things, the place to live cannot be guaranteed first. Our manpower has a very heavy construction task this year. The people in the new city area have not even built their own houses yet, let alone build houses for you. The food problem is easy to solve. If it really doesn't work, just kill the sheep. If there are none, buy them from the southern grasslands. But if you move this year, it will take at least 2 months to go back and forth after all. Bringing women and children is not as easy as you walking here alone. In this case, even if you come over, you will have to wait until early autumn, and then it will be the tense food storage season, and there will be no time to prepare a place for you to live. In this case, you will not be able to safely survive this winter after you come. You will freeze to death without a warm house to live in. Therefore, I plan to move in early spring next year. You will start walking here after the snow melts, so you will have a year to do the basic construction, that is, build the city walls and houses. And this year, all the construction projects in Hanyang City will be completed. As long as the school buildings and the remaining single building are completed, they will have nothing to do next year, so I can send them to help you build the new city. It will take a year to build the new city. By next winter, a safe city, wall, warm houses, and endless food. All of these you will have. You explain to them in detail the current situation and difficulties. Then, leader, are we now considered members of the Han tribe? Can we have what others have? A young chieftain asked you. Haha, as long as you agree to join, you are a member of my Han tribe. No matter where you are, you will have the same rights as other members. I know what you are thinking. I can promise you some things now. Salt, cloth, needles and thread, scissors, iron pots, ceramics, buckets. These can all be given to you, and I can also give you some vehicles for transportation. In addition, I will also send some people to go back with you. The first is to teach you to learn Chinese characters and Chinese. The second is to teach you to learn to use those things as soon as possible. And the third is to supervise you not to take my things and not return. Of course, you didn't say the last sentence. That was just your own thought.